Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Songs. Today is a very special day. We've got a very special guest, and we're in a special place. We are in the brewery at Orange County Hops in Walden, New York, and I'm sitting here with owner and proprietor Mike Antonelli. He's joining me today to discuss our top favorite Steely Dan songs. My friend,
great.
Thanks for having me. Welcome to the show once again.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Hopefully you guys caught Mike. We did a little interview with Mike here at the brewery a couple months back. If you haven't checked it out, go into our special guest playlist and seek it out. It was a lot of fun. So, and we've had a lot of viewers ask about doing a Steely Dan top 10 songs. And I always like to think, with any of these bands that I decide to do, I always like to think, well, do I have someone who I know very well who is also a big fan of either a style or the band itself? And I wanted to pick someone for this particular episode who also is a big jazz fan, because let's face it, Steely Dan is all about jazz and pop and rock. They kind of do everything. So I automatically thought of this guy who, if you didn't know it, is a great jazz musician who plays a hell of a sax. And I figured, let's get Mike on this show, and he was more than happy to do it. So how we're going to work this today is we're going to each give our top 10s, but we're going to alternate back and forth. So we're going to start at number 10. I'll do my number 10. He'll do his number 10, 9, 9, 8, 8, so on and so forth. And then at the end, we'll list some honorable mentions. But Mike also has done a lot of research on a lot of the songs, and he's going to have a lot of really good tidbits about.
You think so?
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so. But Mike can give some really good perspectives, I think, on the time frame and a lot of the musicians who played on some of these songs and lyrics and things like that. So we're just going to wing it and see how it comes out.
Now, full disclosure, you and I did not reveal our top 10 picks to each other. So we have no idea how this is going to turn out.
So this is not planned. This is not scripted. I have no idea what his 10 songs are. He has no idea of mine.
Right.
And I think that's so.
And in the event that we match,
it's just by chance.
We're just going to have a toast and have a beer to that.
That's it. Well, we're going to start off by doing that.
All right, we'll start out with having a toast.
Cheers, everybody.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's get started. So, coming in for me at number 10, off of the Countdown to Ecstasy album, Showbiz Kids. Cool tune, right?
Interesting.
Kind of notable for Rick Derringer playing slide guitar on it. In fact, Rick Derringer played on, and most people probably don't even know that, Rick Derringer played on quite a number of Steely Dan songs and albums throughout the 70s. Mm-hmm. And I think he kind of adds this kind of nasty kind of slide licks throughout the song. And this song for me is always noteworthy for like those female backing singers who throughout the song are, lost wages.
Yeah.
And for most of my life, I never knew what the hell they were saying. But it's just something about lost wages,
right.
Whatever. But it's a cool song, and that comes in at number 10 for me. You're up.
Awesome. So let me just say that I did my research based on every album that they did, including live albums, including compilations, because I didn't go with the commercial attitude that, what was their biggest hits and what was more popular.
Well, yeah, and that's generally what I don't do on the show either. I mean, I'm going to have some hits in here, but most people are usually surprised that I don't just list off the 10 most best-selling singles they've had.
Yeah,
because that's
So as you mentioned, I'm a sax player, right? And so of course I'm going to be drawn to the saxophone work, and there's some amazing saxophone work on throughout the history of Steely Dan. They hired the best studio musicians they could find. Yeah. Both on, horns and also rhythm section players. And, let's face it, some of the greatest singers, Michael McDonald sang with them, and a trio of background singers that they had.
Timothy B. Schmidt from the Eagles.
Yeah, throughout the years. Great musicians from all kinds of genres, So my list here, I have to be honest with you, is focused basically on the musicianship that I found, and some of it is based on Donald Fagen's wittiest lyrics that I love. So they're not necessarily the top grossing songs of Steely Dan,
but they're your favorites.
But they're my favorites.
That's what this is all about. Yeah,
so we're going to start with the comeback album, Two Against Nature, from 2000, and I'm going to go with the final tune on that CD, which is called West of Hollywood.
That's a good one.
Because there is an extended sax solo with Chris Potter, who is, I don't know if your fans know who Chris Potter is, but if not, check him out. He's one of the premier tenor saxophone players of our age and of this, modern generation.
Last 20 years anyway.
Yeah, and he just blows it out of the park. He also toured with them in one of their live tours. I don't know if it was 90, I think it was 94, 95, somewhere in there, and appears on Alive in America as well as part of the horn section, some of the tunes that they did. So anyway, West of Hollywood is my number 10, and it's Chris Potter. Like I said, he blows it out of the park. I don't know the exact length, but it must be at least 3 to 4 minutes of sax jamming at the end of that tune. And it's a classic clinic of how to play saxophone.
Yeah. And I think that album is really jazzy.
Yeah.
I think that they, with the two kind of like later period albums, that one and the one that came after it, Everything Must Go, I think they really just kind of embraced their inner jazz roots and kind of forgot about the rock. And there's really not even a lot of pop on those albums either.
Yeah.
Just really good melodies, really laid-back jazzy arrangements. I think a lot of the hardcore fans didn't embrace those two albums that much, but they're actually very strong, I think. But good choice. Good choice.
Thank you.
And not what I expected. That's good. That's a good thing. Yeah. So for me, coming in at number 9 from the Royal Scam, which I think is my favorite Steely Dan album. It's a great album.
There's too many great tunes.
Yeah, and my number 9 is Kid Charlemagne.
Guitar solo.
If for Larry Carlton, I mean, come on, it says it all right there. It's just a great tune, and again, embraces everything that made this band so good.
Yeah.
And they were so good. Just pop and jazz and rock and funk and just everything's there, right?
You know who else played on that album? I think Lee Ritenour.
He did. Yes, he did. Yeah. And I believe Danny Diaz played on that album as well. I mean, most of their albums had at least 4 or 5 guitar players, in addition to Walter Brecker, who also played guitar and bass.
Yeah.
So, crazy. So what do you got for number 9?
So, number 9. My number 9 from the 1975 release, Katie Lied. And I have to go with Dr. Wu.
That's a great song.
2 things that really impressed me about this tune. First, the melody is really kind of sexy. It's just dances around. It's a really cool melody. But they got the great Phil Woods to play alto on this tune. And, Phil Woods, if you don't know, he also did the solo for Billy Joel's "Just the Way You Are."
Oh, he did. Okay,
and some other pop tunes. So he's done pop studio things before, and also an interesting tidbit that I learned was Jeff Porcaro, the drummer that played with him during this period from Toto. He was only 20 years old when he played with Steely Dan and recorded this.
Wow.
20 years old, man, just a kid, a baby.
So then when Toto started up, he was. 24? Because that was only a couple of years later?
I guess.
Because Katie Lied came out, that was 75? First Toto album was, 78 or 79?
You would know that.
So
I wouldn't. I love Toto, don't get me wrong, but I'm not the fact man that you are. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, Porcaro, man. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, all those Toto guys were essentially jazz players, most of them.
Yeah.
And did everything. Yeah, studio guy. That's a great pick. I love Dr. Wu. That's a great song. Cool. All right. Coming in at number 8 for me, the title track to Pretzel Logic.
It was a tough choice for me because I weighed that and considered it, but I didn't choose that one because it was one of their more popular tunes. And I wanted to, well, let's just say I had some other choices on that LP, and I wanted to make sure I had a nice cross section. But that's a great pick. It was one of my cookies that I was tossing, up and down. I'm going to put that on there.
And it's funny because you mentioned it was a hit on that album, not one of the bigger ones, but still very familiar.
Yeah.
I think to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Little known fact: Timothy B. Schmidt, prior to joining the Eagles, guested on backing vocals on that entire album. At the time, he was with Poco, and great guitar solo from Jeff Skunk Baxter, who was a phenomenal player, who also played on a lot of those early Steely Dan albums. So Pretzel Logic, it's. I redid my list so many times there. I kept pulling stuff out, putting stuff back in, but Pretzel Logic in the end just had to be in there. It's such a great tune. What do you got for number 8?
So number 8, from their final studio recording, the title track, "Everything Must Go."
Yeah.
And to me, that sounds like the swan song, like they're actually saying goodbye. It's the last cut of the album, and it's a song about the end. And I make a motion to dissolve the corporation in a pool of margaritas. Okay, we've had it, we're done.
Yeah.
Goodbye, and it's a liquidation.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. We've liquidated everything. Everything must go. We're closing our doors, going out of business. See you. Bye-bye.
And whether they intentionally meant it that way, and was it 2004 that album came out?
203 I had.
203. Now with Walter's passing, I'm sure that is the last Steely Dan album, because I think Donald probably will do solo albums, continue doing that. But did we really? I don't know if they definitively, other than maybe in the lyrics, said that back in the early 2000s after they released that album. But now looking back on it,
that's the impression that I got. And you never know what Donald Fagen was thinking when he wrote these lyrics, because he's so sly and clever and witty and sarcastic at the same time. I think with a lot of his lyrics that you're not sure where he's coming from. He can turn it around in a second.
That's
with
true.
a line.
That's
very
true.
Witty writer.
Oh, yeah.
Really loved his writing.
Yeah, great stuff.
So the other thing with that song is they give a great tenor player, Walt Weiskopf, some room to stretch out and play, and he plays the crap out of his tenor saxophone, man. The guy is he's amazing too. So what can I say? I'm drawn to the Steely Dan tunes that have great jazz artists, and they let him
show off. Yeah,
they let him show off. Yeah,
absolutely
great.
Good choice. So for my number 7, I'm actually picking a lot of the ones coming up were actually fairly, most of them fairly big hits. This was actually, I believe, not their first hit single, their second, but it was actually, I think, it was a second hit single from the Can't Buy a Thrill album, which of course is their debut, Do It Again.
Mm-hmm.
Just such a great tune. And I think, we talk a lot about these great guitar players and sax players and whatnot who have appeared on Steely Dan albums, but I got to give a shout out to Jim Hodder, who plays some killer percussion and drums on the Do It Again single song, as well as great guitar work on that from Skunk Baxter and Denny Diaz as well. So and this song for me has some special meaning because it's the first Steely Dan song that I ever really got into. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of special for me. So
that's cool.
That's my number 7.
Number 7, great pick. I love that whole album, and as a debut, it was very powerful. I thought as a debut, there were several songs that were very popular and notable. Good writing,
and they stand the test of time. And even though it was kind of a different band at the time, like they had another guy who sang a couple tracks on there who left shortly thereafterwards, and that was more of like an actual band as opposed to like a bunch of studio musicians coming in and creating an album, which is what they basically did for most of their career.
Right.
But really, really strong album, and I love his the electric piano on that song is great too.
Yeah.
So what do you got for number 7?
So number 7 from Pretzel Logic from 1974, I picked Any Major Dude Will Tell You.
Yeah.
And as a pretty much music theory geek myself, the chord progression in that tune is so obscure and obtruse that I never would have, I've never heard anything like it or since. The way he put the chords together in that song for a pop rock, jazzy band.
And that little piano guitar lick,
the little thing in the middle.
That's brilliant.
Right.
Brilliant stuff.
Right. It reminded me somewhat like like an experimental type of a thing that you might hear from like Frank Zappa, let's say. A little
Yeah,
Zappa-ish
I agree.
with those little noodling lines going
Yep.
through that
Yep.
became kind of the hook.
But the chorus
You know.
is pure pop, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
a great song. Great
Yeah.
song.
And also Skunk Baxter. I think that was the last. Was that the last album that he was
think
on?
so. Yeah, he played on those first couple. Yeah,
Yeah, too bad because he did.
great player. Well,
great-
you know, he
lot of
made a
work,
lot of money
work.
with Doobie Brothers after
Yeah.
that. So it's you know, the cash cow was calling, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah. I guess you're right there.
Good choice. Good choice.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so my number 6, going back to the Countdown to Ecstasy album again, My Old School. I mean, you know,
Excellent pick. Excellent pick.
and there's just so many reasons why it's excellent, right? I mean, that's like more
Yeah.
of kind of like a rock tune for them, I guess.
Yeah, but a great horn arrangement.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that was like the first time that they used a whole horn section.
True.
And
Complex time signatures, right? I mean, a lot of stop-start playing and all that. It's just,
yeah,
it's really good.
Yeah.
And again,
funky.
Jeff Skunk Baxter, all over that song.
Yeah,
All over that song. And I think
great pick.
the vocal harmonies are spectacular.
Yeah.
On My Old School.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those tunes that you just get up on your feet and start, grooving around and what have you.
And it's actually one of the ones that historically reveals a little bit about the band, that they were very, kind of private. They didn't really show a lot of who they were, blatantly. But this is about their college days, and their experience at college, and a couple of events that they wanted to talk about, which is kind of autobiographical, which is cool.
Yeah.
We don't see a lot of that in a lot of bands like this.
No.
Unless you're talking about the breakups and the mundane things that everybody goes through.
Or if you're Springsteen.
Yeah. Springsteen, yeah.
So what do you got for number 6?
All right, for number 6, I chose from Can't Buy a Thrill, Reelin' in the Years.
Yeah. I mean,
with
no
Elliot Randall's guitar.
needed. Yeah.
And there's another great version of that with some added horn arrangements on Alive in America from 1995. That was the band they toured with.
So if you can't go out on tour with Elliot Randall to play that solo, you might as well get a bunch of horn guys to replicate it.
Well,
and do
they
it, right?
got it. This guy, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name.
George Wadenius?
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 I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but he tears it up on that.
Yeah.
All over that.
Live album, yeah.
The live album. Great guitar work. Yeah, and then, of course, they had Dennis Chambers on drums.
Oh, Dennis is the best.
Yeah,
He's the best.
on that tour. And they also had Peter Erskine for a while on that tour as well.
Peter's great.
And, of course, Bob Shepard and Chris Potter.
That's a great band.
Jim Pugh on trombone.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a really strong band. That's an all-star band right there.
Well, of course. they're gonna hire the best that they could find,
Yep.
know. And so that was my number 6, Reelin' in the Years.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's my number 5.
All right. Oh,
So
we almost collided.
We almost made it there. So I guess I don't need to talk any more about that because you already covered. So what's your number? What are we at?
So my number 5. So my number 5, also from Countdown to Ecstasy, which features Skunk Baxter and also a live version featuring Dennis Chambers on drums and Wadenius on guitar. Bodhisattva.
Yeah, it's a great tune. It's a
Just
great
the
song.
groove and the guitar and drums going back and forth and playing off each other. What a great
The
jam
shuffling rhythms on that, and
Yeah.
I think the vocal interplay on that song is just so great.
Yeah.
That's an absolute classic.
Yeah, that's my number 5.
Cool. All right. Coming in at number 4 for me, the title track to Asia.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's just this kind of long, epic, jazzy, mysterious classic that just kind of like breathes and twists and soars and dives, and it's got great electric piano from Joe Sample, the great Joe Sample, and I just always love the vibe of that song. It's just something about it. Like when Asia comes on, everything else stops, and you just gotta sit and listen to it. And so, no matter how many times you've heard it,
Yeah.
you gotta enjoy it all over again. Every single. It's just
It's very personal personal for me, that song, and I'll save my commentary
Okay.
till I get to the reason why.
Gotcha.
So yes, it's spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert! It's coming.
It's in my top 10 for different reasons.
Cool.
But I'll save you that until I get my turn at the end.
All right, what's your number 4?
All right, so turn the page. Number 4,
page.
also from Countdown to Ecstasy.
I see a pattern here.
Yeah, My Old School.
Yeah.
So there we intersected on our list once again, which we talked about.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic song.
Yeah.
I love it. Love it.
I was in a wedding band for 20 years called Silken Sounds, and we did an arrangement of that tune. It was one of the favorite tunes that we played. It was just,
I can imagine,
so much fun to play
challenging
that
stuff,
in the horn
right? Yeah.
section.
Oh, yeah.
It was great. A lot of fun we had with that.
Cool. What are we up to? Number 3.
Yeah.
We're going to go back, for me, to the Royal Scam album. Again, I think one of probably the coolest song ever recorded by any band. No, never gonna do it without your fez on.
Yeah, and I happen to be a Shriner.
Oh, no.
So that means a lot to me that you like the Fez. That's cool.
The Fez is just such an awesome song. I mean, that's another one of those tunes you put on, everything else stops, and you get your groove on. And this, the song makes no sense lyrically. I guess it really does, but to most people, they're just like, what is this about?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Right.
It's like one of the coolest songs ever.
Well, I'll toast you to that one because that was one of my good, my almost top 10s. But my number 3 is also from the Royal Scam. So we did kind of intersect a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, 2 of the best albums, right? Countdown to Ecstasy and the Royal Scam. It just can't beat it. But, what else notable about the Fez other than it just rules? Great little Walter Becker guitar solo. But I just... Again, lyrically, it's simple, it's brutally catchy, and I don't know. I can't say anything more about it. I just love it. I love
that whole album. Any one of them.
Wants to be his holy man, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
What do you got, number 3?
So number 3, like I said, we've intersected here with the same album from 1976, Kid Charlemagne, which was your...
number 9.
Number 9. That's my number 3, actually. I just love the guitar work by Larry Carlton.
Yeah.
And also the live version, again.
And then the guitar player. I got to hear that. That's that commercially available live album, right?
Yeah, it's called Live in America. It's got a picture of Mummy on the front.
Oh, love mummies, right? I'm a horror monster guy.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I love mummies. So I got to get that. I've seen it like numerous times. For whatever reason, I just never got it. I need to. Cool. What are we at? We're at number 2. The top 2. Again, I'm going to be digging from the Royal Scam album, and this one might surprise you here. Don't Take Me Alive.
Great tune.
I mean, that's probably Steely Dan's serious dark rock tune, I think. Right? It's got an edge to it, that song. Some mean guitar licks in that song.
Mm-hmm.
That's, again, Larry Carlton doing the solo and all those nasty riffs throughout the song. And I love Fagen's vocals in that. Just such a great tune. Always really dug that. So that comes in at number 2 for me.
Awesome. My number 2 from 1977's Asia album, Deacon Blues.
That was in my original top 10 and it got bumped.
Yeah.
I love Deacon Blues.
Well, Deacon Blues, I love the whole self-deprecating lyric of the loser who is down on his luck and wants to be a jazz. This is kind of like autobiographical for Becker and Fagen as well because they wanted to be like jazz players and jazz stars, and they end up finding the road to pop stardom and how things just change and the road weaves all the time, and they ended up who they are, but they drink Scotch whiskey all night long and die behind the wheel, learn to play the saxophone. I read on somewhere, I think it was Wikipedia, that has a little quote about how they came up with the name Deacon Blues. Fagen said that at the time they call Alabama the Crimson Tide, right? So the only other football reference that he knew at the time, there was for the LA Rams, there was a big lineman called Deacon Jones.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Right? He was a very famous defensive lineman.
Yep.
And they Crimson Tide and Deacon Jones lyrically, syllabically it lined up, and so they called it Deacon Blues.
Cool.
And that's how they came up with that
That's
lyric.
pretty witty, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But for me, the saxophone. Again, they hired a huge heavyweight, Pete Christlieb, Texas swinging saxophone jazz guy to play the solo there.
That's great too. That's great.
That was my number 2.
And that's, I think, before we started taping here, we were talking about like lyrics in particular, and I think you guys have heard me say this numerous times before. I've never been a huge lyric guy. I always, tend to pay more attention to the instrumental pieces of songs. But I think like Deacon Blues is one of those songs that I always enjoyed listening to the lyrics and wondering what the hell he's talking about, right? Because some of the lines in that song are just, you just described a lot of them, are just like so like, God, it's kind of interesting. What's he really getting at? Where's this all coming from? And it's one of those songs where you remember all these kind of bizarre lines in the song from a lyric perspective. Even if you don't really know what what the meaning is behind the songs, you remember those, the chorus, and you remember a lot of the verses and what have you. Great tune. It's a great album, Asia.
Yeah.
Great album.
Yeah.
So we're at number 1. All right.
Number 1.
All right.
Okay, the glasses come off for number 1.
Drum roll, please. Okay. So my number 1 has actually always been my favorite Steely Dan song, and it's a little bit of a personal thing here. So I talked about earlier about how "Do It Again" was the first Steely Dan song I ever got into, but it was "Ricky Don't Lose That Number" that really, really hooked me into this band when I was pretty damn young. I remember, that came out in 73, 74, something like that. Pretzel Logic.
74.
74. So, I was only, 8 at the time, but I remember that was all over AM radio, and my parents used to listen to, AM radio constantly, whether in the car or at the house. And I remember when that song came out, I was just like, I just lost it. Loved that song. And as, here we are, a million years later, and I still can't get enough of that song. And again, it's a little bit of a different tune for Steely Dan. That's that's not much of a jazz flavored tune. That's a pure pop song. But man, it really works. And I know that Fagen has gone on record saying he's not a big fan of that song. They don't play it live, and I never understood why. How can you not like that song?
Well, do you recognize? I'm not sure if you know that, but the bossa nova groove in the beginning.
Yeah.
Boom, toom, toom, boom, toom, toom, boom, toom, toom. Right.
You ripped that off from.
That's Horace Silver's song for my father.
Yeah.
Which is a great. It's not a rip off. Yeah. It's a tribute. In my view, I would say that's a very complimentary thing to copy somebody else's, style. It's just a beat and a groove. It's not.
But he made
it
work.
Not patented. It didn't take the whole song, and of course the chord content and the lyrics are totally different. So, but yeah, they took that groove and it was something special to them, and there you go. So
yeah. A fantastic song. I just love Ricky. Just love it.
Yeah.
And again, from another very, very strong album. Also noteworthy, and I think I mentioned it earlier, Timothy B. Schmidt backing vocals on that track.
Yeah.
Eventually made his way into the Eagles, but was in Poco at the time. All right, so
nice.
Mike's number 1.
So going back to 1977, the title track from Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Like I told you before, that was coming up.
Yep.
I was in high school, right? And I started going out with this really pretty blonde girl in 1978. And, through my travels in college, we stayed together, and we finally ended up
I know who she is.
Moving to Boston together. And when I was at Berkeley, and we ended up getting married in 1982, and still married happily to this day. So
and she's not here because now would be the perfect time for her to walk on camera and wave to everybody.
No, but she's going to watch this, later.
Yeah, true. True.
So, hey, honey, I just gave you a shout out. So it's for my lovely wife, Alva, which her initials are AJA.
Very cool.
So the album has, and the song has a particular meaning for me, a special meaning, because we were, just dating when we were listening to this, and when all my dancing is through, I run to you.
Yep.
It's just it's a very special thing for me. I even have a tattoo on my leg with the initials AJA,
Very cool.
with the saxophone as the J in the middle, and the ribbon from the album cover, that red and white, goes through the entire tattoo.
Very cool.
So
Wow.
yeah, it's a really, really special meaning. And Wayne Shorter, the great saxophonist who just got inducted into the Kennedy Center Honors group.
A legend.
He just nailed it on that song. So
Cool.
Also, I wanted to mention Tom Scott, who did all the horns arrangements for that album. Also has a solo, I think, on Black Cow, maybe. Tom Scott. I'm not sure which song he soloed on, but again, just one of those albums that you say you'll always remember where you were and who you were with
when it came out.
When it came out, and it's been truly my unsung, what would you call it, theme song for my life.
Everybody's got one,
basically.
Right? Yeah, everybody's got one. So that's
Yeah.
very cool. That's a great list.
Yeah.
Yours too. Thank you. So see, we had a couple that were the same.
We intersected.
Yeah, we had a couple that were the same.
Yeah.
I think you probably picked a couple more obscure ones, which is good. And I generally, because I know I'm going to get some viewers who are going to say this, is like, oh, Pardo picked a lot of hits this time around, because I usually don't. But I mean, with this band, half of their repertoire were hits, right? I mean, it's just so many memorable tunes.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to get to right now. So I don't know if you jotted any down, but I have a whole bunch of honorable mentions that I want to run through, because I hate not giving a shout out to some really, really good songs. So,
okay.
So you with me?
Yeah.
I'm just going to rip through these. So
go ahead.
Let's go back to the first album, Can't Buy a Thrill. Dirty Work.
Yeah.
Kings. Great song. Midnight Cruiser. Only a Fool Would Say That. And Change of the Guard, which was also in my top 10 initially, and it got bumped out. That's a great song.
It is a great song.
From Countdown to Ecstasy, Bodhisattva, okay, which you had in your list. The Boston Rag.
Yeah.
That's a great song.
Yeah.
Your Gold Teeth and King of the World. King of the World is fantastic.
One of my favorites.
From Pretzel Logic, and another song that was in my top 10 that got bumped, Night by Night.
Was also in my top 10.
And it got bumped?
Yes.
That's a great song.
Yes.
That probably, for me, is a number 11 or 12 song.
Now, let's talk about just that Pretzel Logic. I mean, I see you have their Parker's Band, Barrytown.
Yeah.
Major Dude was one of the ones that I picked.
Yep.
How about I'm Through with Buzz? It's only a minute and 30-some seconds
They
long.
had a couple of those, right? Yeah.
To me, that Pretzel Logic represents a period where maybe they were experimenting in kind of like the Beatles' White Album, where they do different orchestrations. Like I'm Through with Buzz has this like studio orchestral feel with all the strings and stuff.
Yep.
You don't hear that on any other Steely Dan.
No, you really don't.
And then Major Dude starts out with an acoustic guitar.
I know. Yeah, acoustic guitar in any Steely Dan song.
Hey, what happened?
What's this doing
where
here?
are these guys going with that? And then Parker's Band, they had
Parker's Band is great.
The great Ernie Watts.
Yep.
It's another saxophone tune that I left out for whatever reason, but
Barrytown is great. And how about the lyrics to Charlie Freak?
Yeah.
I mean, that's some heavy stuff there. A great album, Pretzel Logic. Katie Lied. Black Friday. I don't think neither one of us picked Black Friday. Bad Sneakers, another great song. Dr. Wu you had, I love that. Daddy Don't Live in New York City No More, great song. Mm-hmm. Chain Lightning, Any World That I'm Welcome To. It's basically the whole album right there, right?
Yeah.
From the Royal Scam, and I hated leaving out any of these songs. I'll have the Caves of Altamira.
Yeah.
Great tune. Sign In Stranger, Green Earrings, love that tune. Great guitar work in that. Haitian Divorce. I really hated leaving that in my top 10. Isn't that a really cool, unique song?
Really cool song.
Yep. Yeah. And the title track, The Royal Scam, is also great.
Yeah.
From Asia, a lot of great tunes. Black Cow, Mike mentioned before. Deacon Blues is on your list. Peg, I hated leaving Peg and Josie out.
Yeah.
Because they're both so great. Home at Last is killer. Neither one of us mentioned anything from Gaucho, but Babylon Sisters is a fantastic song.
Right.
Hey 19.
Yeah.
Time Out of Mind. And from the Two Against Nature album, I really like Gaslighting Abbey.
It was originally one of
mine.
It was number 10 for me.
That's a great kickoff song, right?
Yeah.
A great opener.
Yeah. And what's that about?
Gosh. No idea.
You look at the lyrics, and it's like, well, we have a cable and and some fuel.
Yeah, what are you planning on doing there, buddy? Yep. Great stuff. Cousin Dupree is great. Jack of Speed. And from the very last album, From Everything Must Go, I love Godwhacker. I think it's a really cool tune. And Green Book is also really cool. But there's a lot of great songs on those. So let's quickly just run down our top 10s again. I'm just going to blow through mine real quick, and I'll have you do yours. So coming in at number 1, Ricky Don't Lose That Number. Number 2, Don't Take Me Alive. Number 3, The Fez. Number 4, Asia. Number 5, Reelin' in the Years. Number 6, My Old School. Number 7, Do It Again. Number 8, Pretzel Logic. Number 9, Kid Charlemagne. And number 10, Showbiz Kids. Mike's up. Just quickly run down your top.
Number 1, Asia. Number 2, Deacon Blues. Number 3, Kid Charlemagne. Number 4, My Old School. Number 5, Bodhisattva. Number 6, Reelin' in the Years. Number 7, Any Major Dude Will Tell You. Number 8, Everything Must Go. Number 9, Dr. Wu. And number 10, West of Hollywood.
Good stuff. So that's our Steely Dan top 10. We have another person in the house here today that I'd like to get on camera real quick. Sam, come on over. This is our buddy Sam. I asked Sam to just quickly rattle off 3 of his favorite top 3 favorite Steely Dan tunes.
Hello, everybody. Sure, 3. Sure, no problem.
You got it. If you want to do 5, do 5. But if you got
there's so many of them.
I know,
right? It's hard to pick. For me, it would go way back to the beginning when I first heard them. It would have to be Do It Again, because Can't Buy a Thrill.
Yep.
Then it would have to be Reelin' in the Years.
Yeah, that's
great guitar work on that.
Oh,
And to
yeah.
me, it would be Royal Scam.
title track.
Royal
Yeah,
Scam,
it's a great
absolutely.
one. Yeah,
just those 3 alone.
it pained me not to include that because
Yes.
that's a good
There's
choice.
way
I'm glad someone picked that one, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah,
awesome.
I like your Sam. Don't go away yet.
Oh, okay.
Sam, come back. I love your attire, Sam.
There we
Where
go.
can I get one of those?
Yes, one and only. Right here, Orange County.
Same
Ops.
place you can get one of these.
That's right. So so let's do a little plug
This
here.
happens to be the chocolate stout, and you're drinking the Papa,
Papa Louie Pale Ale.
Did we show them Papa Louie?
Yes, show Papa Louie.
There's Papa Louie.
That is Papa Louie right there. That
Yeah.
guy right there with the white beater shirt.
Right.
There, right?
Striking image of my grandfather sculpture work, and he really did look a lot like that. No, he did. Seriously.
You can see all Mike's. In fact, Mike, you want to talk a little bit about the stuff behind us there?
Just some recordings that I did. It's
Yep.
no big deal.
No, it is a big
But
deal.
it's some stuff.
Yep.
So some jazz recordings, and one I did with a big band up top there. That's the New York Swing Exchange that we recorded. Nice LP. This is a live recording called Mike Antonelli and Friends, recorded right here and also at the Barn in Liberty. And back in 2008 when I had, well, you can barely see that, but I actually had dark hair. That's when I looked more like Frank Zappa instead of Colonel Sanders. From 2008, that was that recording. It was 10 years ago.
And if you go onto
Woody and Me.
www.seeitranquility.org, you'll see reviews of both of those albums on there. So,
Yeah.
good stuff. So, if you guys are in the Hudson Valley, or if you're visiting the Hudson Valley, make sure you stop by. What's the address here, Mike?
771 State Route 52, Walden, New York,
Yep.
12586.
Very, very cool place.
Weekends only.
Weekends only. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Live music almost every weekend.
Mhm.
And you'll see this guy on stage every single time. There's a band playing here, whether it's his own or another one.
Well, that's how they get hired.
Yep.
They have to agree to let me play with them.
I play with you or you don't play here.
Exactly. It's my place, damn it. That's the way it's going to be.
And he's got great beer on tap. Currently, we've got about, how many taps you got going right now?
We
About
got
half a dozen?
Yeah, half a dozen
Half
or
a dozen.
so.
So it's a
More
very fun
coming up.
place. Yep, more coming. So that's our Steely Dan show, guys. So make sure you visit us on the web at www.seeitranquility.org. We're on Facebook. Check us out there. We got daily music polls that we want you guys to take part in. Visit us on Twitter. All right, we've got announcements going on there. And, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. So till next time, be good. Mike, thanks again for joining us. Thanks for having us here.
Thank you for having it here at the brewery, Pete. Appreciate it.
Love it. If you guys want to see him again, just let us know, because I'm sure we could sit down and pontificate about Miles Davis and Weather
Miles.
Report. And, I mean,
Wow.
you want to see it, we'll do it. Okay? So
Thanks.
we'll see you guys. Take care. Mike, thanks again. Thanks, Sam.
Well,
Bye-bye.